Everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander, and I am, as always, very honored and excited to get to host another Power to Fly virtual event. Now, before we dive in and kind of get started on today's conversation, I just want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items. These will be especially important if, maybe this is your first virtual event with Power to Fly. And if that's the case, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you today. Now, the love is no less real for our frequent flyers. I'm always so eager to see our familiar names and faces in the chat. So thank you so much, y'all, for joining us today. Oh, Edward, I hope that you enjoy the music. I didn't think anybody else would catch that it was a Zombies tune. So thank you so much. I very much thought I was very clever for pulling that today. So thank you. All right. Now, the biggest thing to know, whether this is your first event with us or your 100th, is that participation is key. We really make up and design these events with all of you in mind, so that you can have the most control, the most participation, and the most engagement that you want to have with today's event. So if you do want to participate, that is awesome and encouraged. You are welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like, share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But there is no need to be Instagram perfect, y'all. Some days the struggle is real. Right now I'm riding that depression bus hard. So we're on, I think, day 3 or 4 of the dry shampoo messy bun combo. All of that to say, we don't care if you're coming to us from a corner office or your living room couch. You could be in a ball gown or a bathrobe. We don't care, all right? We just want to meet you where you are. We want you to come and learn with us today. Now, if you want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, y'all joining me on stage. Thank you all so much, y'all. Sometimes it gets a little lonely up here, so thank you so much for joining in with your cameras. Now, if you do want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, that's fine. You can always chime in the chat thread. I'm really encouraged and really love to see people utilizing that space. So if you'd like to, please feel free, jump into that chat thread and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So if you'd like to share with us where you're calling in from, please do so. And if you know, you're welcome to share whose land you're on. Now, the big thing to know about all of our virtual events, or especially our chat and learns, is that they're all recorded. And what that means for you is you don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Marisol and Sandra. And you will get, you get to lean back, you get to enjoy it. If you're worried about missing out on a reference that someone gave or a resource, don't sweat it. Everything that we're doing today is being recorded. So what that means for you is that in about 4 to 5 business days, Power to Fly is going to email everybody a link to where they can rewatch this recording when it's posted to powertofly.com. Now, I recommend you check it out there because there's a huge archive. All of our past chat and learns are there. There's some great resources. They're entirely free. We really want to make sure that y'all utilize them as much as possible. If let's say that Sandra or Marisol says something today that is just so like mind-blowing, unbelievable, paradigm shifting, you cannot wait 4 to 5 business days to tell a friend or a relative or a coworker. Good news, you don't have to. So you can also head over to our YouTube channel. I'm going to share links for all of this in the chat as we go. We're actually broadcasting to YouTube right now. Hi, YouTube. And I do see we've got a bunch of people chiming in on where they're from. So we've got California, Palo Alto, Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Mountain View, the Philippines, Arizona, Wilmington, North Carolina, Oklahoma City, Quebec. Love it, y'all. Thank you so much for chiming in here. Ooh, Los Angeles County, part of the, I believe that's the Tonga people. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, y'all. Now, like I said, you can check out the link or you can check out our recording on our YouTube channel. It's posted there usually by the end of the day. And so if you want to check it out there, you can. There is an archive there as well, but it doesn't have the full, width and breadth of all of our resources. So I very much recommend you check out the site as well. Now, please feel free to let us know in the chat, like I said, where you're calling in from, but you're welcome to keep that chat hopping. Let us know if you have questions, if you want to dive in even deeper on a topic that we're talking about, subject matter, maybe terminology. Let us know. We would love, love, love to make sure that you all get the value that you came to get from today's event. So as you are networking with your fellow attendees and connecting with speakers, just make sure that, as always, we lead from a place of kindness and respect. And if you have a question or a comment that you would like me to raise, but you want to be kept anonymous, no worries, y'all. Just DM me. You can find my name, Meg Alexander, in the drop-down menu in your Zoom meeting chat. Now, I'm very excited to introduce you to our speakers, but before I do that, I just want to highlight they are both here today on behalf of Salesforce. Now, Salesforce is a fabulous Power to Fly partner. Y'all have been partners with us, I think, my entire tenure with Power to Fly, so at least 4.5 years. And I really enjoy partnering with Salesforce on a bunch of their events. So if anything that we talk about today and anything that Marisol or Sandra shares with y'all about Salesforce sparks your interest in them, I really recommend you check out their company page. Again, y'all, apologies, I don't have my links at hand right now, but I will be sending all of these in the chat as we go. If you've never, if anything we talk about today sparks your interest, I really recommend you check out their company page. You can check out the overview to learn more about the companies. There's usually information about the culture, sometimes benefit stuff is in there. You can look at events, so that'll be past events that they've partnered on with us like this. So there'll be recordings there that you can check out. You can also check out about company insights. Those are all great tools as well. And then the meat and potatoes that most people come for is the jobs. So clicking on that jobs listing will let you see everything that Salesforce has posted currently. And I want to encourage y'all to join their follow network. That big pink button that you see on the screen that says follow, there's one of those at the top of every company page on powertofly.com. You can click it. You can follow and unfollow a company as many times as you want. You can follow as many companies as you want as well. But basically what that does is it acts like your friend who already works at Salesforce. So clicking that button tells the Salesforce team that you are already interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. So it's a really great option if you are actively seeking, but don't see anything right this second that really suits you, that you'd love to apply for. The other thing it does is it allows Power to Fly to take some of the weight off of you in your job search, because we will let you know when Salesforce posts new roles. So you don't have to keep setting that alarm to come back and recheck and check and recheck job boards. Let us take some of the weight of that off. Now, like I said, I really recommend that you check Salesforce out. And hopefully you'll hear something in the next hour that will, kind of spark your interest or make you more curious about Salesforce. Now, I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker. Marisol Torino is the Senior Manager of Software Engineering, and she's based in Argentina. Now, Marisol has over 15 years of experience in the software industry in project management, performance improvement, strategic business planning roles, and within global operations environments. Marisol is passionate about making technology accessible for people living in remote locations, just like her. Marisol, welcome to the stage. We're so happy to have you today. Is there anything else you think our audience should know about you before we dive into questions?
Sure. Hey, hello, everyone. First of all, thank you all for having me here. I was honored by the invitations to join this live event. So my pleasure to be here. And I guess the thing that I want to add here is that I live in a super small town right in the middle of the Argentina country. So no, I'm not that girl of the big cities that go to the office, Salesforce tower every day, right? So I mostly work remotely. Right now I'm in the office. I used to travel to the office once per month, more or less. But with this, the only thing that I want to let you know is that Salesforce has open opportunities for everyone, everywhere. So don't be afraid to apply. And I actually encourage you to apply to any job opportunity, because location, it's something that doesn't matter pretty much if you are a really, really good match with our company.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm really excited to get going and get started. We might have one of Marisol's colleagues, Sandra, joining us in a little bit. If she is able to join us, I'll give her an intro then. But until then, we'll just proceed with the two of us. So thank you so much, Marisol, for your trust in me. I very much appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, y'all, let's get our event going here. Let me stop my share. So we're going to be going on and asking, like I said, a bunch of questions that you all had submitted when you registered for today's event. Now, if you asked a question when you registered and you're not sure if we're going to get to it today, ask it in the chat. If you submitted a question and you think maybe there's some more context or details that we should know, or maybe we're just not coming at the question at the right angle, let us know in the chat. You all took time here to be with us, to be here live, to be here, and really enjoy today's event with us. We want to make sure that we reward you for that. Okay. You have the power to drive today's conversation. My whole job here is to make sure that I get the value that you all want out of this event so that you can have the answers you need. So if you got questions, ask them. That is the best way to make sure that you get the full experience today. All right, let's dive in here and start with some of the kind of more common questions that were asked. A lot of people wanted to know what sets Salesforce software engineers apart when it comes to building the future of technology. So what do you think sets y'all apart? What are you doing that no one else is?
I guess Salesforce is like at the top of every innovation in the industry right now. And that makes that excitement for everyone working in the company, which is also a challenge, because we need to be up to date, day by day, learning new things, especially in the AI area that we are right now. But I guess that's what makes the difference with other technology companies, being at the top notch of everything, right?
I like that. I think you're right. It's one thing to be in an industry. It's quite another to know that you're leading the pack there. And that's got to be a pretty good feeling mixed with a lot to try and keep up. You got to stay ahead of the pack and see what's coming up down the pole. I like that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the career skills that software engineers need. A lot of times, if you are an aspiring software engineer, it can be kind of confusing which skills are essential for career success and which might be a nice to have or something that you should, wait and, focus on later. So what do you think are some of the top skills that engineers need, especially when the tech landscape evolves? I mean, speed of light, right?
Well, I guess you got the main topic of the answer when you said, especially when everything is moving day by day. I guess it is not so important to focus on the technology because technology evolves and you need to learn new technologies day by day. So I want to focus on one soft skills that we need for every software engineer person working on every tech company, which is communication. And why I say communication? Because in this kind of scenarios, you will be working with a lot of people that has different levels of understanding. Some ones are more technical, and other ones are more at a high level. So being able to go from different levels of understanding and connect that different points of view, it's key for a person trying to succeed in a software engineer career.
I just want to highlight y'all, like, I know basically nothing about software engineering, okay? Despite the fact that I interview people about it all the time. You're laughing myself, but seriously, like, I don't know tons. And I love how often when we talk about software engineering, people want to know about skills, and then we start talking about soft skills. And I feel like they expect us to talk about, like, oh, you have to know this language, and you have to, be fluent in this, and you have to have 8 years of experience in this. And those things are important. Obviously, you can't just have never seen a computer before and be like, yeah, I'm an engineer.
Yes, it's like the entrance point. Yeah, of course. But it might change during your career, right? Yeah. And you need to be able to upgrade your technical skills and need to be able to keep learning new languages, right? But something that you will need for the very first beginning of your career till the last one is that soft skills that I mentioned, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those are also one of those things that I feel like a lot of times people, like recently for sure, tons of people are pivoting into tech from other fields. And I feel like this is one of those areas that we talk about in those conversations too, where you're talking about skills that can transition, from other fields. And that communication angle is massively important, right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the room. If you can't communicate that to everyone else, how are they supposed to know? And how is that smartness supposed to help anybody else if there's that breakdown there? I like that.
And in order to be more clear, when I say communication, I mean being able to communicate clearly, efficiently, and with tact. And when I said tact, I mean really know who you are talking about in order to understand which kind of words you need to use, right? And another thing that I want to add is, you might notice I'm Argentinian, I'm not a native English. And if you want to work in an international company like Salesforce and many others, mastering a foreign language is also key, because it will allow you to communicate with that broad angle of people working in an international company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least those of us in the contiguous US absolutely get very spoiled by this and do not have to, every day of our lives navigate a second language. But absolutely, I think you're right. That's incredibly valuable. And especially when it comes to a distributed company or, a company that has a worldwide presence.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your advice for engineers, people that are looking to advance in their careers. What strategy should they employ for this? Did you have a strategy when you were kind of, thinking long-term about where you thought you might go with your career?
Well, I guess the strategy is been changing. Like, for example, when I was a software engineer student 15 years ago, we said that every year we went to study something new, right? But nowadays, it's kind of challenging us. And it's not 1 year new learning, it's more on a daily basis learning. So what I can suggest to you is to have at least one daily read, okay? Because that allows you to be open-minded. Of course, you will learn something new if you read something every day, but that keeps your mind open to a new topic, because that's what happens when you join a company like Salesforce. Changes happen every minute, and you need to be open-minded for that kind of changes, right? And if you are at the early beginnings of your careers, you need to be prepared for that. And in my point of view, having that open mind, starting from a daily read, can be a postcard, can be a blog, whatever makes you be curious, right? And be open-minded to any new changes that would be set you for success in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Having a curious mindset it's such a huge asset, honestly, in so many fields. And honestly, just like to be a person in the world, like people that are curious, at least in my experience, tend to be a little more open-minded, a little more engaged, a little more happy. It really is a skill that it can be developed, right? Just because you're not a curious person now doesn't mean that you can't become one. But yeah, I think this is absolutely an area, and I mean, tech changes so quickly. It's tech is absolutely the one thing that basically all of us are going to have to continuously educate ourselves with, right? There's always like a new app to get familiar with or whatever. And so I think it is really important that we think in those terms, right? We think of this as a lifelong journey, not as oh, great, I'm done with boot camp, done with school. Sweet, yeah. Don't have to think about that ever again. That's
the point. I guess we were used to that kind of thinking okay, I complete that training, I'm done for this year. Let's see what next year maybe. No, that's not working right now. We need to be more prepared for a constant change. So if you want to succeed in a software engineer career, please start with super short steps, but daily.
I like that. I like that it's short, but daily. Make more of a habit of it as opposed to like this big, long project. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. This next question, I love this question, but we have entire chats dedicated just to this subject. So I know that this is a very big question. What should software engineers evaluate before moving into a management role? Let's talk about, what you think people should think of going in. And then the follow-up question was about kind of pros and cons. So if somebody is considering a management role, regardless of if they've been asked or if they're just thinking about it, what should they be considering, like evaluating about themselves, about the opportunity? What should they be thinking about?
I guess there is one thing you need to think about when you are thinking of moving to a manager role, and that is people, right? Everything we do as manager is taking care of our peoples, right? I'm a software engineering manager and I've been at Salesforce for 1 year and a half. So I'm recently new to the company. And the only thing that I can say is that I have learned a lot about how to make the team succeed by just taking care of people, right? So if you like being engaged in how people evolve, how people grow, what people need, and be every minute helping them to succeed, that's a manager role. If you like more being on your desk, working on your own code and delivering your own projects, that's not exactly what a manager do. Actually, it's been a lot of time since I code my last line, okay? Being a manager means putting people first. And that's the key point of the role.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think a lot of us hear the term manager and think, oh, good, you know everything that's going on. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're not in the same position as everyone else, right? Like you're kind of coach, quarterback, a little bit of both, trying to make sure that everyone is able to do their jobs and set all of that up well. But yeah, it's way different than just, I don't want to say just, right? Because individual contributors is literally just as important. You can't, have a company with only managers. But yeah, it really is something to consider that the tasks are different and the mindset needed for the role is different.
Yes, and you have to deal with a lot of things on your plate, but at the end, you will be successful if you trust on your team, right? And that trust is the number one thing you need to build with when you are a manager of a team, right? So that's why I said, put people first, create that trust, create that connections, and then everything will be set for success, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And then
all right,
one more
before
thing,
we go into our, oh, sorry, Sandra, before we go into our next question.
Sorry, I'm late. My time was totally off.
You are fine.
One thing about a manager role
us.
is, if you're going to move in a manager role, make sure you know why. Make sure what your goal is. Make sure something happened here.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sharing the screen so they can see your bio.
Oh, how you doing? Yeah, make sure you know why. Make sure what's expected of you. Understand the position that you're going to be now managing and the product in there. Make sure you know in that. Because there could be different reasons to move in. You might want to move in to do a career movement progression, or you just might want more money. But make sure that the position you're getting ready to move in, you're truly understand what it is and why you're doing it. What's your goal? What's your 5-year goal for getting that managerial role? Okay.
Yeah, I like that. In case y'all didn't get a chance to see it, Sandra is also part of Salesforce. She's a software engineering LMTS. Sandra is highly accomplished with an extensive experience in QA or quality assurance and project management. Sandra has excelled in delivering top-tier solutions, shaping QA organizations and instituting best practices that elevate software project quality. Now, Sandra's expertise spans project management, compliance, control process monitoring, client and vendor management, as well as various delivery methodologies. She diplomatically facilitates discussions between IT teams and business stakeholders, achieving consensus and driving projects to successful outcomes. Sandra is also known for mentoring IT resources and consistently delivering complex projects on time and within budget, two things that are much more difficult than you would think. So welcome, Sandra, to the stage. We're so
sorry
happy
I'm late, guys.
Hey, you're here. That's all we care about. We're just happy to see you.
But that's a no too. So remember that. Never be late for a meeting, an interview. So that's the first thing I can show you right there.
I'm telling you, man, if I ever heard my dad say to me, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. That was his thing. And it was just like, for somebody who's like just chronically late, oh, that still kills me, y'all. 18 reminders and alarms so we can make sure we're here on time. Yeah. Okay, let's go into our next question here. A lot of people wanted to know about interview advice. How should people navigate communication, especially if they are interviewing for specific roles, in like tech or behavioral coding interviews. So let's take this first things first. Do you think that there's a key piece of advice for people who are interviewing to be a software engineer? Sandra, do you want to start us?
Yeah. the first is like, know the company. Know the company's values, things like you have to know the company. Second, know the position you're getting ready to interview for. I mean, I've had people interview with me, they had no idea what the company was about. They didn't understand the position, and that's a flag. So those are the two main things. Know the company, know what you're interviewing for. Also, when you're interviewing them too. So don't feel that what I'm trying to say is don't settle. So if the company doesn't fit, don't go for it. You know, there's other jobs out there. So make sure you're fit. Always go to an interview and prepare to ask questions. That's a big pet peeve of a lot of people, when people come in an interview and don't have a question to ask. So that's why you do your research on the company, understand the company's values, see if they're in alignment with yours. So those are the key things I can advise you to do when you're getting ready to prepare for an interview. And if it's a tech interview, know the different programming languages. You got to demonstrate your soft skills, because even though we're tech, we do a lot of collaboration and talking with people, believe me. So you really have to have some strong soft skills. And that's what we look for. Your passion, how you present yourself, be professional. So those are the key things I would say that's important when you're getting ready to interview.
I like that. Marisol, how about you? What do you think that there are anything else that Sandra might have missed?
I would say, just to add what Sandra said, is be yourself, because if you try to force something that it's not on your blood, we will realize it, right? And it won't help at all in the interview. So be honest, be transparent, and be yourself in every question, right?
And I have one more thing, Mick. Follow up. When you have an interview, just don't send a thank you letter. That goes a long way. Always follow up. It's like RSVPing for an occasion. Those are things you just should do. Okay.
Y'all, I am old enough that I remember being told to mail a physical thank you note. I am that old, okay? Just be glad you don't have to do that anymore,
yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And do yourself a favor. Google interview thank you email, okay?
Yes.
Don't make your job harder. It's fine. No one's going to be like, that's the same letter that Brenda sent me.
Right.
It'll be fine. Like,
or Chat GPT now.
Yes, make the robots do it, okay? God, they're all going to be running our lives in 20 years anyway. So like, you might as well just take advantage of it now, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We actually got a couple questions in the chat that were really good and kind of along with this. I do have an answer for one, but people came to hear you talk, not me. So Margaret had asked, how do you handle it if the questions that you had planned to ask were answered during the main interview?
Could you rephrase that? Could you say that again?
Yeah. So let's say you prepped questions to ask, like you do your research and you know what you're going to ask, and then they already answer the questions like through the spiel or whatever. You don't even get a chance to ask the question that you prepared because they've already asked it or they've already addressed that area.
Well, sometimes what I do is reiterate what the question, what I was trying to get answered, and just rephrase it a certain way or just ask for clarification. So, you know, you tell them I was getting ready to ask that question. Can you give me, and then maybe take it to another level and ask an additional question associated with it. But at least they know you were thinking about that and you're both on the same page. So yeah, absolutely. That had happened to me before too.
Marisol, how about you? Have you ever had this happen to you?
I mean, if you get the answer, then that's great, actually, right? So you are getting your question answered. If you're thinking of you are losing an opportunity because you just thought of that answer, let's, of course, don't force anything else. I mean, it's not just the matter of asking question, it's the matter of having the answers you need, right? So that's okay. It's not just asking for asking. Yeah,
absolutely. Margaret, I have had this happen. I have done, oh my God, so many interviews, y'all. I've had this happen at least twice, okay? Learn from the benefit of my error. Have at least one question to ask that is not Googleable. So that's like an opinion question. Like, what is your favorite thing that the company does to reward productivity? What is, and it helps, especially what Sandra was talking about like interviewing the company back. Ask about things that they can't answer because it's an opinion or because it's like employees, right? Like what, do you guys do anything that's employee appreciation? What is it? What's your employee's favorite thing? Maybe they do a cookout in the parking lot in the summer. Maybe they have a Christmas party, whatever it is. So that's usually something that's okay to ask that can't be Googled. The other thing is I always ask, what should I have asked about something today that I didn't? Is there anything that you wanted to tell me that I haven't asked about? That's a good one. The other one is you can then respond with, if they're like, hey, what are your questions? Honestly, take out notes, like have like a piece of paper or something, even if it's like scribbles, and just be like, you know what, actually, we got through like 3 of my questions in the, while we were talking, I wanted to ask about this and this and this, and we already covered it. And that's totally fine as long as you can list the things you wanted to ask about. Okay. So like, let's say you prepped a question on what brand of kibble do you feed the lions in your circus, right? And they're like, oh, blah, 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 and we only feed them Purina. And then they keep walking. And then later on, they're like, what, do you have any questions? You can be like, you know what? The only thing I really had was about the lions diet. And I remember that y'all said Purina, but is there anything else that I should know about this? Like, do you ever supplement? Ask a follow-up, even if you already know the answer. As long as they have not told you the answer, ask the follow-up. Like, this is why you do your research. Sandra's absolutely right. That way you know stuff and you can be like, so who's your biggest competitor? Something that they haven't asked you.
Right.
Edward had chimed in the chat here. Thank you. Saying, I've heard that asking the interviewer about their personal experience at that company is good. Absolutely. And then really, y'all, just to underline what Sandra had said earlier, truly, you're interviewing the company back just as much as they're interviewing you. So when you're asking questions, pay attention to the answer, but also how they answer. If you're asking about ERGs and they don't have any, are they doing it? And are they telling you that in a way that says they'd really rather you didn't ask this question? Or are they like, you know what? No, we don't have any ERGs. But if that's something that you're interested in and you end up joining us, that could be something that, maybe you would want to start one, blah, blah, blah. Like, listen to how they're answering the questions too. Because nobody likes doing interviews, right? There's no extreme sporting version of it. That's how you know people don't enjoy it. So like, nobody likes doing this. Don't make this harder on yourself. Like, make it so that it's less time that you have to spend in an interview as well as this other person.
And then leave something that's memorable. In your communication, because believe me, they've probably already interviewed 5 or 6 people. And make sure your first 5 minutes are impactful, because I've been in interviews and after the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm like, this person is not going to be a fit, but I have to go through it. So make sure you leave their mark in that first 5 minutes. Okay.
Absolutely agree. All right. So, okay. Another question we got was about collaboration across teams. Now, y'all have touched on this subject a couple of times when it comes to the communication aspect and how important that is. Do you think, or do you have any other advice for improving that cross collaboration, especially if it's like across teams or across departments where the teams might not be doing anything similar?
Well, use the cross collaboration tools that are available to you, like Slack. You can ping somebody real quick right there. Make sure you have certain guidelines on how you're going to collaborate or to communicate as a team. Some people like different ways, but make sure you're both are clear on the expectation on how we communicate, how we respond, and how timely we should respond. Those are some of my key ones. How about you, Marisol?
I just want to add to don't be afraid to speak up, especially in companies like Salesforce. We don't have that hierarchy levels in which a person from one level can speak for a person in 2, 3 more levels up. So use that tools to really communicate and speak up whenever you need. That's the way where communication and collaborations works better, when we are not afraid to raise our hands or make any questions to anyone.
And make
that's
sure
also
your
a good
roles
question
and
for your
responsibilities are established too.
Yeah.
I've been in where people expected certain things of me, and I will run on the same page. So make sure all that is clear. What's your role? What's your responsibility? What tasks and deliverables you're supposed to be responsible for? Because there's always a disconnect there, and you don't want to get it at the end and people expecting you to deliver something. You said that wasn't even on my radar. So make sure that kind of communication is clear too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Marisol, what you had said earlier, that would make a really good question to ask in an interview, especially because you can't really Google it. What's the management style of this team? How do they cross collaborate? What tools do they use to do this? I really like, Marisol, how you said, Salesforce is not, it's not a hierarchy like that. It's not like, oh, I can't share this information with anyone outside of my manager because that's the only person I can go to first. Like, I very much appreciate that. And that's a really good thing to know. Like, hey, how rigid is the hierarchy here? How do new ideas get communicated? If someone has a question, like, are they limited to just going to people in their own department, or can they ask, for help elsewhere? Like, these are, again, all things that can't be Googled and are probably team specific. So even if that hiring manager can't answer the question for you, they at least know that you are interested in the nuts and bolts of how that team works. Like, you are trying to picture yourself there. So absolutely great opportunity there. Thank you, Marisol, for like pinging that for me.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about what that collaboration looks like when the team that you're working with is non-technical. So obviously that's going to kind of raise the stakes a little bit in how much you have to communicate to that other team. But in your experience, how has this changed how the cross collaboration works, or has it changed? Marisol, how about you?
I mean, we are on our every day, we have to communicate with people, as I said it before, different levels of understanding of a technical aspect, right? And that's our challenge, as I mentioned before, be able to speak at those different levels, no matter if it is technical or non-technical, right? So that's one important skill we need to have, and it has been changing. It's always be there, right? So we need to develop that skill.
Sandra, how do you feel? Do you think that there are any additional or different skills needed if the cross-team collaboration is from tech into non-tech?
Oh, definitely. I started out doing user acceptance testing, so I had to work with the business quite frequently. And I noticed that when it got time to do user acceptance tests, if you guys understand, that's when the business comes in and validates what IT has developed is working to their specification. There was always a disconnect because IT talked up here and then they didn't ask the right questions. So when you're talking to non-technical people, you ask a question, ask another question, because you got it. I call it onionizing. You got to peel it till another question can't be asked, because I'm going to tell you, the business is only going to answer what you asked, and there might be something critical there that you didn't. So don't use technical terms, but then just talk to them as we're talking right now. They don't need to understand the technology. They just want to know what the output is going to be. Yeah.
Well, and also if you're talking to people that are non-technical, they might have absolutely no idea what some of those variables are that would be hugely impactful. So yeah, like as the person on the tech side of it, you do have like kind of a raised expectation or a raised level of responsibility to try and make sure that you are getting all of your bases covered for the information that you need to have. Yeah. All right, let's switch gears here and talk a little more about what your daily lives are like. A lot of people, or not a lot, I'm sorry, this question was really specific and I very much enjoy it. This person said, how do you approach the concept of innovation in your work? And what role does innovation play in your daily responsibilities? I thought this was really interesting, right? Because like for so many of us, it's very easy to get kind of like sucked into the grind sort of thing and just feel like you do kind of the same stuff. But how do you feel like you get a chance to innovate in your work? How do you think that really impacts your daily work?
It depends on you. I like to be different. I like to look at process improvement. So you got to think out the box, and to be a good developer and a BA or whatever else, you got to make sure you're not just going with the norm, because technology is changing, processes are constantly changing, and you want to change with it. So stay up on the latest and always think about, how can I improve? How can I make this better? And you'll be all right. And that's what I do. Right now, I'm in charge of working with teams to help build up better practices and toolings they can use. I have to think about what's good for their area and what's coming down the pipeline. So you got to be innovative. You got to think out the box a lot. Yeah.
Marisol, how about you? Do you get a chance to innovate?
I mean, in my point of view, innovation is that having, as Sandra said, that courage to experiment new things without being afraid to fail, right? So with that in mind, in a team, we every time try to innovate in super small things like our internal processes, how we can better support our internal customers, how we can better provide answers to all the questions we receive in our office hours meeting, how we can do things better in this superstar, because sometimes we associate innovation with super new launch of a bigger, great product in the market. And it's not just that, it's also small changes without not being afraid to making mistakes, right?
Yeah, I think that fear is a huge aspect, right? Like if you have a, like, it kind of goes to what we're talking about, right? Of creating that culture or creating a personality of curiosity. It kind of goes hand in hand, because if you want people to be curious, that means you want them to be looking into new things and trying new things.
Right.
But if don't have a culture that supports the fail, or like if you have a culture that somehow punishes the failure as opposed to, okay, what did we learn from this? Then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, right? How are you supposed to get new ideas if doing something new could be very, very bad? Yeah. Oof. These are good. I like these answers, y'all. I mean, I always enjoy these events, but y'all are fabulous. So thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about AI. It's been a huge buzzword. Obviously, ChatGPT is something I've said like 800 times in the last 3 months. So let's talk about how Salesforce ensures that AI technology is accessible and usable for a wide range of customers, regardless of their technical expertise. This is a big ask, right?
Yeah.
Marisol, what do you think about this?
I'm not any AI expert, first of all, but what I can say is that Salesforce is a company that wants to provide end-to-end solutions to their customers, right? So what Salesforce is doing is creating that products with AI that has everything solved to our customer, because we have heard the customers, right? And customer says, I don't want to learn how to manage this AI stuff. I just want my business to use the AI to have more success, right?
Yeah.
And Salesforce has been working on providing products that make that possible. So if you have the opportunity, at the last Dreamforce events, they present one of the most important launches that Salesforce has on the AI area, which was Einstein platform and Trust AI. So don't miss the opportunity to check them keynotes, because there you will know a lot and exciting, because for me, it was really exciting to understand, okay, what is actually Salesforce doing to help our customers to introduce AI to their business models, right?
Sandra, how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm like her. I'm not an expert, but I do use ChatGPT every day. Just
yeah.
But
what are you having it do? No, I'm always curious to ask, because like I honestly, I had it write I had it write intros for me. I've had it write all kinds of stuff. I mean, I put my husband's information in there to get a cover letter generated for him, because like that's usually my job and I didn't want to do it. So
yeah, I used it for my nephew was having an HR problem. So I typed in ChatGPT, this is the situation. How do I structure a letter to HR? And they did. It was perfect. You know, I used it for my son going to Paris to plan out his whole trip, you know. So it's all kind of, and I use it in my day-to-day work to understand, like if I get a requirement, I understand, what does this mean? What does this term mean? How should I test it? And it comes back with some good things like that. And one thing I must say for Salesforce, our CEO is really about continuous improvement and innovation. He's strong on that. So we got on AI real quick, you know. And like she said, our Einstein platform, Einstein Analytics. And one thing we're really careful about, the ethical, ethical risk around AI. So we're looking at that from a security and all that stuff. We work with data. So AI is working with data. So we're very careful and protective of that, and our customers that use it. And we have implemented some stuff in their applications and their processes already.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And I really appreciate it, especially it can be very difficult when you're like, so we want to talk about AI. And you're just like, okay, that's not my subject. So sorry.
Right.
Thank you. All right. Now we've kind of touched on this a little bit about how tech is constantly evolving and people want to really stay at the forefront of the industry. And it can be kind of challenging to try and figure out how to do that, especially if you're just starting in the field. Are there any resources or any tips that y'all have for keeping up with with the industry? Are there blogs that you read, podcasts? How do you stay up to date?
I can say,
okay, you go on, Marisol.
okay, I can say one only tool for reference, which is Trailhead, because that's the learning platform for Salesforce. And there you will have a lot of resources, not only on the technical side, but also on the soft skills side, even to prepare for an interview, for example. So check it out, because that's an amazing tool that we have, and it's for free.
Yeah, well, one of the things was asked, the technology is constantly changing. I mean, every month something new is coming up, so you have to be up on the latest. And the way you do that is online. Online learning platforms. You can go to different podcasts. I get things from different tech organizations all the time about telling me this is new. You can do this way. So you got to be LinkedIn is very good. Even Facebook is good. It's just, there's so many ways you can get it, the knowledge you need, and to stay up on it. And then once you do, how do I implement it? Talk to your manager. I heard this new process, and then that's how you get it involved. But yeah, you need to be involved in a lot of podcasts, online learning, do some certification, tech blogs, all of that. And the key thing is professional networking. So there's a lot of things, like I live in Chicago, and there's always some kind of event that people are asking people to come to. Start going to those. You meet people, you get connections that way, and you learn about the newest technology just by talking to people with like minds. So those are some of the key things I would suggest. Yeah.
I like that. And I mean, honestly, a lot of this is stuff that people would come by pretty organically if you, like Marisol had said, explore that curious mindset, stay curious about the stuff that you're doing, because there's many different ways to stay up to date, right? You can stay up to date through your own industry, or you can stay up to date through, like maybe you are super into gaming and that's how you're going to stay up to date on what's going on within the tech field. So I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those. All right. What other questions do we got? Okay, so we've got a ton of questions coming in the chat, and a lot of people want to talk about stuff related for interviewing. So I'm going to save those for just a minute here. Let's see. Oh, Margaret actually has a really good question. Are there online networking events for those of us who live in the middle of nowhere, and how do you find those? Yes. Power to Fly hosts a lot of them. So if you come to our diversity reboot summits and our virtual job fairs, there are absolutely tons of opportunities to network. We used to host gather round sessions. So it was like a literal just a 30-minute event that was just networking. So if y'all are interested and want to bring those back, let us know. hi@powertofly.com. And meetup.com is a huge one. I used that when I've lived in various parts of the country. I lived in quite literally a one stoplight town, and that was what I used to try and meet anybody else around, like Port Penn, Delaware. It's just as small as it sounds. Okay. What do y'all use? Like, are there networking events that you join that are not location specific?
I do some online, and I have them coming to me all the time, because I'm always online research and stuff. And when you do that, you'll find some organization that does this. So it's just going online, being available, you know, and especially if you have something you're interested in, Google that. You'll be surprised how you can get different organizations and events that's going on. And then you start with one or two, you'll get a bunch of them. I got so many coming now. You got to pick which ones, but you got to do your research and get engaged with those. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Very, very cool.
All about
I do also want to push, we do have the Power to Fly community space. It's basically like AOL used to be, if you're 1,000 like me and remember instant message. It's effectively kind of like that. So if you are interested, I'll share the link again. That is also another excellent place to network, because truly networking is just making friends. Okay. It's literally just business for making friends. We can do this. Everybody's awful at it. It's okay. All right, let's go into a couple of the interview questions. Okay, this person said, in an interview, how do you balance I want to grow and keep moving forward with I will be here to do this job? I'm always worried about an employer assuming that I will move on too quickly. So this is a good question. If you have, you have aspirations and you want to keep growing, how can you ask in an interview about that without giving the impression that you're not really interested in the job you're applying for?
That's a good question.
I've done it by saying, what does upward mobility look like at this company? And how long do people tend to stay in roles before being promoted? And trying to ask it in like a average sort of question, because that can also give you an idea on if they promote from within or if they don't. But if you all have answers for this, please chime in. Marisol, how about you? Have you had to field this in an interview before?
We ask a lot of long-term plans to candidates. A lot. We used to have that questions when we interview people at Salesforce, because we want to understand not only what they want to do right now or once they show in our company, but we want also to let them visualize in, let's say, 3 years or 5 years. And with that answer, we collect a lot of feedbacks on that plans and on that balance of I want to keep here, I want to do a change, you can trust on me, I will be here for a long term, and these kind of things. So we used to have that questions in interviews.
And I think be honest, that's be your authentic self and be honest. If that manager wants you to be in that position 10 years, you need to know that, because you want to grow. So you just be honest, ask the question, like she said, what is the progression to move up? And, how long does it take? But be careful in answering that, because then, like she said, you come and they think, oh, this person just wants to move up, but you want to know what is my development, my career, what would my career look like in this company? And that's what you ask. But be honest. I've been in positions where they question me like, well, you overqualified. How do I know you'll stay here? And I'm like, well, I have a passion for that. I love doing it. But then again, I want to stay at the company too. And I want to be able to provide certain things to the company, like leadership and stuff like that I have. So this way you ask it to let them know you're not just going to stay there. No company should want you to stay in a position forever. And if they do, you need to run.
I mean, if they do, that's a bit of an odd company. So yes, I would very much run, because I'd be curious about, whether they're in the black or not.
Right.
With methods like that. That's a good one. The other thing, y'all, I want to remind you, not everybody has to be wordsmiths. Okay. If you are worried about I don't know how to say this, say it like that. Hey, I don't know how to ask this question. I'm not trying to give the impression that I'm not interested in the job I'm applying for, but what does growth look like at this company? Just say it. It's totally fine to be like, hey, I'm not trying to give you this impression. Here's the question. Preface it, y'all. It's okay.
It is okay.
Oof. All right. We've got 5 minutes left. All right, well, let's get to one more. All right, Sandra, this one was asked towards you, but we can both weigh it, or you can both weigh in if you'd like. This person said, I've been told that QA jobs are a good way to get into tech. What skills do you look for in QA folks, and what should grads add to their skill set if they want a QA position? So let's start with that first assumption. Are QA jobs a good way to get into tech?
No.
Okay. All right. Tell us why.
I say that, I'm going to tell you the reason I say that, because most of you, have you heard of the agile methodology? And things change. And that's why I said technology changed. Before was everybody had to have QA and there was this, and nobody ever actually staffed appropriately for QA. People want quality, but they don't want to pay for it. I'll be honest with you. So as far as QA, but it's good if you're a developer because you need to know how to test and debug, and you need to know how to drive quality. So to get those QA skills is important for you to be a successful developer leader, because QA, you have to communicate with people. You got to think out the box. You're sitting up there to saying, how can I break something? You know, and one of the key things, and I think one of the things that made me more successful in being a QA, because I worked with the business at first. I was on a production environment. So I realized because development writes that you got to go A, B, C, D, E, F to get something done, I got to pay 90 claims a day. I got to do a shortcut. So I'd go from A to B to G. So that's one of the things you got to look at, how people use things. And as far as QA, it's a good skill set to have, but you need more of that in most companies, honestly. So.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. All right, we've got 4 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure we shared a little bit more about Salesforce with y'all. So these are some questions that we had asked to our panelists to get some more information about Salesforce and the culture there. All right, I want to look at your favorite part about working at Salesforce. So Marisol, you had said that there's no 2 days that are similar and every day is a new challenge. Could you give us an example of I was doing this on Tuesday, but by Thursday I was doing this?
Well, we receive an announcement of a new process. We need to follow up to evaluate people. And we were super pushed on following that process. And today I went in a meeting with a super senior level manager, said, which process? This one that we were notified yesterday. I don't know which is, but please don't care about this. Let's do that, right? So it's not that we are not following up the process, is that we have a new process starting now that update, for saying like that, the process is that was said yesterday, right? So, and you are like, oh, but I'm not even prepared for the previous process, and now I have to start like understanding the new one. Yes, that's your role. Please move, right? So that's the challenge. No, every days are similar, and we are kind of dealing with a lot of changes every day, really.
Yeah. Sandra, do you agree? Do you think that it is people should be ready for change in this field?
You have to be adaptable. Like we said, things are changing fast paced, things are changing, directions are changing. If you're not adaptable, you're not going to succeed in any tech company, you know. Yeah. So I think that's crucial.
Okay. All right, the last thing I want to ask, and this one, apologies, Sandra, people are just asking for a ton of examples from you. This person wanted to know if you could shed some more light on how to make an impact in the first 5 minutes. Could you give us an example of this? Like, has anybody done this that really struck you, or is there a method that you employed to do this to make sure you made that impact?
Well, the main thing is being prepared for your interview. And another thing, you know, understand the role, understand what's required for it. A lot of people just don't know fully what's required for it. And you ask them a question that's already in the job description, they can't answer it. Another thing is being passionate. You know, you don't want somebody coming there dead. You want somebody that shows you I'm enthusiastic. I want this job. I'm going to be good at this job. Confidence. So when I'm talking to you, if you just got off of lunch and you're sleepy, you're going to make me sleep. And I've already been through 5 interviews. So I want somebody to wake me up. So be passionate, understand what you're doing. That's what you're applying for. Know the company, you know, talk about things like that, you know, and they're going to ask you questions, but ask the questions with enthusiasm. That's the key thing right there. Don't be too excited though, but there's a
don't go full Meg, okay? Like break it down like 3 notches, okay? Like I know I tend to be a lot,
right?
But yeah, you do want to be, you know, you want to be at your best. Pro tip from behind the scenes: if you are either not feeling it that day or just very much doubting yourself, put on a pump up song. Like go park in like the very back of the parking lot, put on a pump up song, crank that shit up. No lie, and just like dance it out. The more wiggly and weird, better, because I'm telling you, it'll get rid of cortisol in your muscles before you go into that interview. Okay. So it like kind of de-stresses you a little bit. And it's really hard to be in a bad mood once you've like done one of these like 6 times. Truly, y'all, game changer. I do it before every event. It absolutely works. So take those advice. Oh, geez, we're out of time. Okay. Marisol and Sandra, thank you both so much. It's been wonderful to get to know each of you, get some of your expertise today. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with our audience. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
All right, y'all. If anything that you've heard today interests you in Salesforce, I really recommend you check out their company page. I put the link in the chat there. If this was your first Power to Fly event, I really sincerely hope it will not be your last. If this was your 100th, I cannot wait to see you again on another event soon. Have a great rest of your day, week, and weekend, and enjoy the Halloween festivities in case I don't see you before the 31st. Bye, y'all.